everybody. Welcome back to my channel. This is Detroit AllyCat. If this is your first time ever coming to my channel, I do true crime videos, I do unboxings, do horror movie reviews, I do all kinds of weird stuff. But typically on Tuesday, sometimes Wednesday, because I get kind of crazy, I do true crime videos. And this one is an update to a case that was pretty close to my house, sorta. And I got really, it was a really in-depth case. It was called the Piketon Massacre. And it kind of stood at a standstill because, you know, the whole coronavirus and, they weren't having court cases. But there's been an update to the case. And I wanted to kind of go over it and talk about it because so many people were on my channel being like, oh, you know, there's an update. So without further ado, let's get spooky. So for those of you that don't know about the Piketown Massacre, it happened in 2016, and it really truly was like two families that it just reminded me of the Hatfield and McCoys. I'll do like a quick summary just so everybody gets it. There were two lovers, I guess you would call it. I hate saying the word lovers because it sounds so cheesy. But two people that were in a relationship, Jake Wagner and Hannah Roden, and they ended up having a child together, and they were in a relationship for 2 years. And the Wagners and the Rodens became very good friends until Hannah and Jake actually ended up breaking up, and there was like this big fight about like the custodial, who gets the rights. I even believe that they worked out an arrangement, but that just was not working out for the Wagners because they wanted full custody of the little girl that Hannah and Jake had together. And it turns out, like, in the middle of the night, there were unknown suspects that went into these houses, and these houses were all next to each other. The Rodens had houses that were all next to each other in Waverly, Ohio, and in the middle of the night, somebody went in there and shot the entire Roden family. And there was also a camper on the property as well. One of the uncles was in there and he was shot as well. And what was bizarre is they left three small children alive. Like, two of them were like laying next to their parents' dead bodies. It was a very gruesome, very intense case, and I've never actually heard of anything like this. I mean, I'm sure that there is, but like, it was definitely a vendetta type case. Like, the people had to have known them. Like, Hannah's father ended up getting shot twice in the head, and what was really crazy is that there were silencers used, or at least they assumed that there were silencers used, and they also used something called a bug catcher. And for those of you that don't know what a bug catcher is, it's like when you actually use a firearm, the shell casings drop down into this like net, and that way you can't be tracked. So this is like a really methodically thought out crime. Like, these people did not just go in there like spur of the moment. It was very premeditated. It was very like, we know what we're doing, and they went in there, and it was crazy. I did a whole thing about the case, and I will definitely leave a link in the description if you want to go back and hear about it and go through all the fine print details. Eventually what happened was the Wagners ended up moving to Alaska, which looked really bad on their part. But even if they were innocent, I would want to leave too, just because it looked like they did it. So I'm not going to assume that they left because they were guilty, even though it does look bad. However, they ended up coming back to, like, I don't know, get some things done in that state. I'm sure they had like property to sell or something like that, and they were all picked up. They were put under arrest, and they have been sitting in the lockup this entire time. which is really crazy because there's been a lot of cases that happened pre-corona, and because of what happened with corona, they had to be put on hold because they could not actually have like a court case for it. I mean, they've been doing things by Skype, but a lot of other cases have been putting on hold. For whatever reason, they decided that they wanted to go ahead and go through with some of the trials or plea agreements this month. I think it was a couple days ago. Jake Wagner actually sat down and he agreed to a plea agreement, and I believe it's because he was facing capital punishment. I don't even know if there is capital punishment in Ohio, but I'm going to assume that there is because he pled guilty to murder of all counts. And he also is apparently turning on his family, which is going to be a big deal. So he really hasn't gone into detail about exactly what has happened, or at least they have not released that to the public. But he basically went on stand and he said that he did, in fact, murder the family, and his family was involved, and that he was very, very sorry. And yeah, this is like kind of a big deal because it was like for the Roden family, there was no like, they didn't have any answers because the Wagners were saying that they did not do it. And I'm going to be honest, I was really on the fence. It sounded like the Wagners did it, but at the same time, it was very, I could not make up my mind about it. Like, would you really go in and kill 8 people for a custodial battle? I mean, and the way they did it was very like, it was very thought out. It wasn't your typical like hit, I guess. I don't know. It was, and the fact that the mother was involved. So, okay, so the 4 people that did commit the murders was George Billy Wagner, which is the father, and then Angela Wagner, and then George Billy Wagner, the fourth, I think. Anyway, that's like the older brother, and then the younger brother is Jake Wagner. So Jake Wagner flipped on his family. I don't know if they talked about. It seems to me that this has to be a really tight family. If they're going to go in and kill 8 people together, that is some kind of a tight bond. Not a good one, but, you know, it's a bond. And if he, like, flipped on his family, it's like, I wonder if he talked about this to his family and was like, hey, they're going to try to go ahead and, you know, get us for capital punishment. And if I do this plea agreement, I can live. But that does not mean the other 3 family members will not face capital punishment. And what's crazy to me is that by Jake Wagner saying that he really did do this with his family, that means that Angela Wagner went ahead and did this. And I mean, this woman looks like cookie cutter, like making cookies, like house mom. She does not look like the type of person that would go in and kill people. And she's a grandma. Not only does Jake Wagner have kids, but her other son, Billy Wagner, has children as well. So, I mean, this is just a tragedy for both families. And I'm not talking about, like, the Wagners that actually committed the murders. I'm talking about the Wagners' family members, because there are children out there that now have no parents and their grandparents killed those parents. It's a mess. Like, that's some deep, intense stuff. And it happened in 2016. And the thing that really gets me, like, is the fact that when Hannah ended up getting together with Jake, she was 13 years old, okay? So her and Jake got together, and I'm pretty sure he was like at least 3 or 4 years older than her. So that right there just kind of was weird. And then she got pregnant at 15. And now the father is like in prison for the rest of his life for killing her mother. And it's just crazy is what it is. But I wanted to come on here and I wanted to do an update about this case because it's a very intense case. And Waverly is literally like, I think it's like 4 hours away from here. Ohio is a huge state, like huge. Honestly, Waverly might be closer to the border of like Kentucky-ish area, but it's close. It's a decent amount of time away. It's not that far. So yeah, I just I wanted to come on here and talk to you about the Piketown Massacre and what's going on. I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens in the next coming court cases, because they'll be I want to see what happens to each of the family members. Like, are they also going to admit that they were part of it, or are they going to turn on Jake Wagner? Like, I would love to see that, and I will definitely keep you guys updated on this. They said that Jake Wagner is not going to get his sentencing until after all of the other trials. So that's another thing that we all have to sit and wait it out for. But at least the Roden family has some kind of like closure, and now they know what happened. But I just have this weird little voice in the back of my head that says that if he was facing capital punishment, would he plead guilty to something that he didn't do just so that he wouldn't face capital punishment? I don't know. Could it be done? Probably. But did he? If I was to tell you like which side I feel is the truth and not the truth, I'm leaning very much on the side that the Wagners are guilty. And yeah, it's just such a sad, messed up case. And so that's the update, guys. I got a lot more videos that I want to try to do this week. I'm going to be very, very busy because there's a lot of things going on, but I hope I can get on here. So thank you so much for listening to my true crime update. I hope you are enjoying the weather, whatever state you're in. If you enjoyed my video, please think about subscribing, leaving a comment, telling me what you think. Do you guys think that the Wagners did it? Tell me, are you around that area? I really want to hear what you guys have to think about this whole case, because it's very interesting. And I feel like there's so much more that we just don't know about. I guess apparently there was like a laptop that was confiscated, cell phones that were confiscated. All of the information has not been released to the public. So it will be interesting to see if in those next cases when they like try to go for Billy Wagner and Angela Wagner and Billy Wagner the son, if all that comes out. So anyway, I really appreciate you watching the video, and as always, stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, guys.